Hello, I'm Jane Barrett at the Career Farm, and this is episode 112 of the Career Farm podcast, Grow Your Own Career. Hello, and welcome to this month's podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Geryn Evans, who is founder and CEO of Project Blu. I happen to be reading a magazine called Coast, and I came across an advert for his products, which are animal accessory products, and they're made out of ocean waste, and they're actually really beautiful because I was looking for a dog bed for my dog, and I was thinking, wow, what a great way to kind of close the loop of waste plastic from the ocean and make it into useful things. So I thought I would invite the founder onto the show, and it turns out he's got a really interesting story about how he set up the business and his journey so far. So let's get on and speak to Geryn. Hello, thank you very much for joining us. So could you first start by telling us what your company is, what they do, and your role?
Yeah, so my name's Geryn Evans, and I'm the CEO and founder of Project Blu. And we're a company, it's a joint venture based out of South Wales, and our partners are based in Tuscany in Italy. And essentially, we are revolutionising the pet accessories space. So we are taking polluting and harmful materials such as ocean-bound plastic, fishing nets, recycled clothes, and converting them into beautiful, top-quality products such as dog beds, collars, leashes, bowls, and litter trays. And the company, the idea only really came into my head probably about 20 months ago, and we officially launched in May 2019. So it's all happened, very, very quickly, and there's a lot of, really great things we're proud of, but I can sort of explain the journey as we go on.
Definitely. And it's those products behind you. Those are your products.
Yeah, so they're the range of dog beds. So yeah, they're made out of recycled. So we take the recycled plastic and break it down into polyester, and then we combine it with recycled clothing, so it gives it like a soft, comfy feel, and then turn it into the fabrics. So yeah, we work with a lot of partners in Europe to help us sort of do all of our innovation. And it's just just a very high level overview. Most of the sort of innovation in sustainability is focused around, technology, food, fashion, and clothing. And the pet space has just pretty much been ignored. Pet accessories mainly for, because there's just been such a huge reliance on manufacturing mass-produced products in China with a focus on low price, and then comes low quality, that there's really been no innovation. So we are, when people say they are disrupting a market, we really are doing that, and we're very proud of the work we're doing.
I think what's really great as well is you're closing the loop, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's true. Is it circular economy? It's not my kind of area, but is that what it's called?
Yeah. So we're doing. There's, unfortunately, when you look at the bigger picture, there's so many problems in the chain. As in, if you're making things out of polyester, polyester is essentially made out of a process with oil and coal and gas, and uses a lot of resources. Then if you consider, you've got a Labrador style dog, that's a big dog bed. It's sort of like a small sofa. And if you're shipping that around the world, there's an extremely high carbon footprint.
Right.
And then finally, you can't recycle dog beds. So at the moment, every dog bed is ending up on landfill or an incinerator. And, if you think of, I think there's 11 million dogs in the UK, 90 million dogs in the US. Wow. If a dog owner changes the bed once a year, there's 90 million dog beds ending up on US landfill every year. So there's so many different problems that we're trying to solve, and they are sort of all interlinked, and that's where the innovation comes in. But like I said, it's been, if you even Google carbon footprint of a dog bed, there's no one talking about it. And maybe an elephant in the room is the wrong phrase, but it's a very big problem that people just sort of, they don't know how to fix it. So we sort of looking to change that.
That's fantastic. So how did you end up doing this? To talk us through. So did you do well at school? What did you study at school?
So I grew up in the Welsh valleys in Merthyr Tydfil, and then I went to Bath University for 4 years. So yeah, Bath's a great university, school of management. And one thing I would say is what Bath do really well is the placement. So we had 2 6-month placements during the 4-year course, which really set us up for when we graduated.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had a job offer with Accenture when I left university, and they're a great company, an American consultancy. But I joined during the financial crisis, which was interesting. And I enjoyed it, but I think because I'm from a family of entrepreneurs, and however great Accenture were, it was corporate life isn't really for me. So I ended up leaving Accenture and going to work for my family business in the furniture industry. So
Okay.
my father's company is a leading supplier to people like DFS and SCS and those guys. And yeah, I just sort of started getting involved with product design and innovation around textiles and integrated technology and different things like that. And basically, if you're talking about sustainability as well, where I started to lose heart in the furniture industry was some of these big retailers who dominate the market. They said, well, why are we building a sofa to last for 10 years when people are buying them on finance? They're changing every 3 or 4 years. So it was a race to the bottom in terms of quality and innovation, and it took all of the romance out of it. But even if you think of the same example as a dog bed, if you change your sofa every 3 years, and where do they go? They end up in landfill because they can't be recycled. So during that stage, I had my dog Ralph, the cockapoo, and
Oh, is he there?
yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's too naughty. He'd be barking at everyone. But
Mine's banished as well.
yeah, so we but what I noticed when I was shopping for dog beds is sort of they came into two categories. So they were either mass produced in China, low quality, medium prices, or they were sort of made by local artisans where the quality was very good, the prices were high, but they couldn't really scale the businesses. And what I realized just with my furniture background that, a dog bed's a small sofa basically. So I thought, well, if I can create something that's in between, so very high quality, a fair price, but you can scale it. And that's how I entered the pet space. And I called the business still exists. It's called Ralph and Co. And, we supply people like John Lewis, Jules, it's a nice business. So that's how I entered the pet space. And then after running that company for about 3 years, I just started to become more aware of, the movement around sustainability, and just started looking at it in terms of, pet products and what we could improve and what was bad about it. And, I just quickly became aware that there were a number of very big problems in the industry that no one was addressing. So we thought about creating a range of beds using hemp and bamboo fabric and lots of organic things. And how the idea originally came up is we were inspired by what Adidas did in collaboration with a company called Parley. So they took the ocean-bound plastic from India and the Maldives and turned it into polyester, and then made a range of running trainers. And I think they sold 11 million pairs in like record time.
Wow.
And with Adidas, obviously the branding and the innovation was beautiful. So I saw this and I thought, well, wow, if I could do something similar for the pet industry, then that would be amazing. And I'm quite resourceful, and I was quite quickly able to work out the supply chain. And luckily for me, the same suppliers of Adidas had a relationship with my fabric mill partners in Spain. So it went from an idea to having a physical fabric sample in my hand within about 2 weeks. And I went to see John Lewis, Jules, and a couple of, my existing relationships. And I said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And they just absolutely loved it. And they said, well, can you do scatter cushions? It was a range of outdoor furniture. We had so many requests come through. And that was the feeling across the board. But what we decided to do is, once we had this reaction, was to create a new brand, but put sustainability at the core of the business and really build it out from there. Because I think if you're trying to be a sustainable brand, there's a lot of companies out there now trying to greenwash and just jump on the bandwagon. Like, KFC selling vegan burgers and trying to say they're sustainable doesn't really wash. But and I think having it at the core of the business, and then having it reflect everything you do and every decision that you make, is a really powerful message. So like I said, the idea came into my head December 2018, because the initial demand was so high, we decided, a younger version of myself would have rushed it and probably messed it up. So that's another tip I'd give: just be patient, I would say to myself. And we launched it officially at a trade show in Bologna in May, and signed up a number of big retailers and distributors around the world. And yeah, sort of went from there. The success started to grow. We were approached by Mars in September 2019, and Mars are the biggest pet company in the world, and they are all about sustainability now, and they're a privately owned company, so they can move very quickly, and credit to them, they're a great company to work with. And they just love what we're doing, and they said, look, we really want to work with you guys. We want to understand more about your product and your vision. And we were accepted onto an accelerator program in Los Angeles in February.
Wow.
With it was with Mars, RGA, who were a huge branding agency, and another great company called Mickelson Found Animals, and the three of them came together to create the Leap Venture Studio. So me and my team were in LA in February. We're supposed to be back and forth for 12 weeks, and then COVID hit. Like I said, we manufacture in Italy, so we were hit first. Well, outside of China, first in Europe, hit very hard. So since then, it's just been an absolute roller coaster. But we've still continued to develop new products and new innovation, and we don't just want to be known as the anti-plastic pet company. We are taking huge strides to be the number one sustainable pet accessories brand. So some of the new innovations that we're launching, we work with recycled leather. So we take the excess parts of when they make the leather industry, which ends up in waste, and reprocess it into finished leather. So it's got a lot of environmental benefits. We're converting fishing nets into dog bowls, litter trays, which is another great development. And we've recently, I haven't got any samples with me, but we've worked out a way how to turn, believe it or not, apple skins into leather. So
now I know that because I bought a pair of shoes from a guy a company called Pozu. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they use apple skins to make trainers, and I bought a pair of trainers from them. And then they won the Star Wars franchise to do the boots for the Star Wars film.
Wow. So it's an amazing product, all made. It'll be from the same supplier because there's a patent involved. So we are creating a vegan leather, which, the leather industry, has a huge problem, especially with the products made in India and Pakistan, environmental benefits. So we are trying to, our big aim, if you're talking sort of big picture stuff, is to remove polluting leather from the pet industry in 10 years is ambitious, but, we've got big goals.
That's great. Why not? So I've got so many questions to ask you. I'm sure Rebecca has a few as well. I suppose from an entrepreneur's point of view, do you ever worry that one of these big companies like Mars might just nick your idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's, the world we live in, once people see success, they will try and copy it. It's inevitable. But I think the advantage we have is because we're a small, lean company and we specialize in innovation and R&D, we can move a lot faster and a lot more dynamic than these big companies. And, for someone like Mars to try and develop this, because they're so big, it's sort of like trying to move an oil tanker. It's just a very slow process. And, but I think what a lot of these big companies in the US they do anyways, they let sort of founders and entrepreneurs do, I'm not saying all the hard work, but do the groundwork and the innovation and build it, prove the concept, and then they'll come in and buy you out, because that's a lot cheaper in the long run for them, and it's just a lot less hassle. So
would you want to sell your baby there?
It's like I said, to be honest, because it's been like such an absolute roller coaster, especially with COVID. It should have been in February, right? We're in LA. We got back in from Mars. This is going to be amazing. I can start enjoying myself for once. And then COVID hits, and it just throws the world into chaos. And you just got to stay calm, not panic, and just innovate.
Yeah.
And so, to be totally honest, we had our team down from London yesterday, and it's the first time we've actually been able to be proactive and plan since February, March time. So,
because I guess your suppliers in Italy just stopped.
yeah, we had no revenue for like 3.5 months. So from flying to zero, and now the D2C, our D2C,
And D2C means what?
Direct to consumer. Sorry, so
Okay,
our website sales. Yeah, was supposed to start in February, March, and that was pushed back 3 months as well. We were supposed to launch in the US in April. That's now going to be November. So it was a number of things that happened, but we're in a very fortunate position. The pet ownership has gone up in COVID, sustainability and direct to consumers. So 3 things have gone up, and so we can't really complain, because there's some people in hospitality, events industries, there's not nothing they can do, but it's just a lot more difficult for those guys to sort of navigate their way out of this. So we can't complain at all, really.
Yeah. I spoke to a guy who specializes in selling businesses, and he said that actually the businesses that are in demand at the moment are online businesses, because those are the ones who are kind of weathering the storm. And you only have to look at Amazon to see how well they've done out of this. So and just for our kind of younger listeners, what A levels did you do, and what degree did you do?
I think A levels. I did economics, business, geography, and IT. And I think they were quite good choices. I think, obviously business and economics is a great foundation, understanding exchange rates and different things like that. But geography as well has been really interesting. I think because I've been doing a lot of international business over the last 10 years, is sort of understanding different cultures, how they work, and even in terms of sustainability now, it was a big thing to sort of help with. And then IT is obviously super important now. So they all sort of provided a good foundation for me. In Bath, I did business management.
And presumably that was very useful, setting up your own business.
Bath's great. The number of entrepreneurs that have come out of our class is, I don't know the exact figure, but it's very, very high, and most of us are doing well in a number of different industries.
Because you always hear people saying, "Oh, but Richard Branson didn't go to university, blah blah blah." What would you say to that? What did it give you that?
I think it depends on the business you're going into, your outlook on life, what your skill set is. I think the biggest thing I would say, is I've got a young son now. My son's only 2 years old, so he's got a long time before he goes to university. But I think, if he said to me he didn't want to go to university, I wouldn't be too upset. I think the most important, you look at any of these successful people, and even if they're not the most academically intelligent, they're successful because they work extremely hard. And there's a number of key traits that are, surrounding successful entrepreneurs, self-belief, motivation, even, you've got to, when you're in university and you read these management books and you listen to, podcasts, I would say to anyone listening, if you listen to NPR, How I Built This.
Oh, that's brilliant. Love that guy.
Yeah. And it's, when I've had some really challenging times in business, you listen to the success stories of, Dyson. Allbirds are a huge motivator for me. Sustainable footwear brand, Ben and Jerry's, Starbucks. All of these guys have had, huge challenges. They've nearly gone bankrupt, and you just got to come through the other side of it. And, and that's when you look at the key traits, it's, self-belief, being able to, if things are going wrong, you've got to be able to sort of, the Americans call it pivot, but, just sort of move around a little bit. And a lot of it's self-belief, and you just got to, just really look after yourself. The world, the more successful you get, you realize there's a lot of sharks in the water, and you've got to, you really have got to protect yourself. But I've I'm 35. I feel about 50 at the moment. But
Think how old I feel. I am 50 nearly, and I feel about 100.
But it's, but you do make mistakes. And when I was in university, I think, right, yeah, I'm gonna be a successful entrepreneur. It's all going to be easy. You're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't happen, and you just got to make. Sorry, is it?
No, don't worry.
Yeah, you just got to make sure that when you do make mistakes or these challenges, you come out the other side basically, and you come
And you
out.
don't make them again.
Yeah, and it's because when we were chatting by email, there's like a quote. Another entrepreneur, well, two entrepreneurs actually from Bath University, and they own a company called Waylar, and they're in Los Angeles doing really well.
Well, what do
Both
they
of those,
do?
it links social media influencers to brands. Is the high level overview. That's how it started. It's changed a little bit now, but yeah, they're a very creative company. They work with massive brands like Nike, Adidas, all of those guys. And James and Neil actually dropped out of university to set up their own business. I think it was 6 months left of it. So 3.5 years to do a 4-year course. So I wouldn't recommend that. But they've done really well. And a quote that Neil says, which I really like, is mountains look like molehills in your rear view mirror. And it is so true. Once you, even COVID, we're not through the worst of it yet, but when you have these challenges and you're like, at the time, like, how the hell do we navigate around this? And then when you do come out of it the other side, like, okay, it wasn't that bad. It was challenging at the time, but you learn from it. And then the next time a new challenge comes at you, it's just like, okay, you remember what happened. It's like, well, okay, well, we will hopefully come out the other side of it. And you just got to stay, like, the biggest thing, just stay calm.
Can I ask you, and you don't have to ask this, how you funded it? Have you funded it through your other business? Have you taken on bank
Yes.
loan?
So we bootstrapped it to date. So yeah, we were getting so at the start it was just me in the UK and our partners in Italy. So yeah, we were just funding it from the other businesses, and then yeah, I started taking a salary in, I think, June, July. So we had $200,000 investment as part of the Leap Venture Studio, which was great.
Did they presumably they get equity for that, do they?
Yeah. So we've got Mars on our Mars RGA and Mickelson on our cap table, which is great. And yeah, we're doing another fundraising round now of $500,000, and that's to grow the business. We got a number of strategic partnerships we're working on in America, but it is really to sort of grow the team and grow the business. And I think, I like watching Dragon's Den, but it's
I was about to ask you, do you?
yeah, so it's a bit it's not unrealistic, but the way they value businesses is as if they were going to buy it outright, which is the correct way to do it. But in the US, it's the valuations are just based on the appetite for risk is a lot higher. And a lot of people sort of essentially, for an investor, it's gambling, and they have to believe in your product and your service. Do they believe that they can double, triple, quadruple their money? And it's about backing it up. And luckily for us, we've got a lot of people who believe in what we're doing and what our product is. But I would say, when you see these guys on Dragon's Den and they don't take a deal because there's an extra 1% equity, especially in this current climate, it's better to have a smaller part of a bigger pie than having 100% of a pie that's not worth anything. So, and it's not giving away too much equity, but it's about, it's a fine balancing act. And if you want the business to grow, you need support and you need the right investment. It shouldn't just be, cold hard cash. It needs to be some sort of level of strategy behind it as well.
Yeah. Rebecca's got a question. Are you looking at moving into other areas now you have the skills to recycle materials into comfy bedding?
Yeah, so we've been inundated by requests to make a number of different products, and I think my probably biggest strength is product design and innovation. I think strategically at the moment, the big opportunity for us is in the pet market, and we want to be the number one. We haven't really got any competition in our space, but for us to expand this internationally is going to take a lot of work. And
Focus.
Yeah, focus. And I think if we start going into other areas, it could distract us a little bit. But
Yeah.
Maybe in a year or two, it's just, COVID's affected that. I think with COVID, you really need to focus on what your core strength is, basically.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get distracted, isn't it? And I found that you can spread your energy very thin.
Yeah.
But I think that is what entrepreneurs tend to do. They like coming up with new ideas and get excited about different things. It's the follow through that often is the hardest.
Yeah.
It's a bit boring sometimes.
No, and I think as well, it's, having the great idea at the start is probably 10% of it, once you're up and running, because especially, I say to my staff till I'm blue in the face, the hardest thing with pet products is shipping, logistics, warehousing, moving things around the world, because it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. If you haven't got a product to sell, you're not going to make any money. And it's so many different things that come with that.
Rebecca's got another question, if you don't mind. Is the process easy to be upscaled? I read last week that 85% of UK recycled clothing is not actually recycled, but goes into landfill or is burnt.
Yeah, that's probably true, unfortunately. So yeah, they are. It's growing now. The demand for it is a lot. The EU has put in a lot of support into helping these industries. The UK is quite a fair bit behind places like Italy and Spain, to be honest. So that's where our fabric is from, and then they collect, because in Spain and Portugal they make a lot of clothes. So we get our recycled clothes. Like a lot of it is either the consumers have recycled it. It was a lot of offcuts that would have been thrown away anyway. So, I think people are becoming aware of it now, and it's, it's okay to notice the problem, but then how do you find the solution? But, the big thing for me is when I started Project Blu, I was inspired by Adidas Parley. Allbirds are an amazing company based in San Francisco, and they are changing the face of footwear for good, which is amazing. And I've seen what they have done, and I've been inspired by it, and I want to sort of create my own success in pet. And you can't expect, there's so many problems in the world, unfortunately. Like, I'm not naive enough to think Project Blu is going to save the world, but I think if you've got this new generation of entrepreneurs coming through, and we're all making a small dent, eventually we'll make a bigger dent. And a lot of it as well is just, especially, you look at the size of America, it's the way it will change is that the world is driven by money. And if consumers stop demanding, unsustainable goods and swap for sustainable products, these retailers will stock them because they know it's making money. So it's all about, it's the problem, with Donald Trump, obviously I'm not a fan, but it's, the problem is you can have all this growth, and then someone like Trump can come in for 4 years, hopefully not 8 years, and, create a huge amount of problems then with the environment. And it's, I think the way we solve it is driving consumers' attitudes, which will change it, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because there has to be demand, and if we're demanding it, and then people will start to produce it and provide things for that market.
Yeah, exactly.
And don't take this the wrong way, because I know you've worked very hard and you've created your own business. But if you're somebody who doesn't have any family money behind you or anyone to support you, what advice would you give to young people who are really starting from zero and want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think so. It's never been easier to have your own brand and your own product now, and the main reason is, there's software out there like Shopify, which is unbelievable. And, you can create a website now for very cheap on your own. You just need either stock imagery or, some good photography. Even if, for example, we want to translate our website, you can just put an app on there and it changes if you want to do currency. So there's so many different things you can do to do it. So it's not, maybe even 5 years ago, if you wanted to create your own website, it probably would have cost you, at least 10,000. So it's too risky. So now I would say, if you want to do it, it's, with the current climate, it's difficult to get money. But I would say, if you've just got a part-time job, even if it's just working in a bar or a restaurant, have the business as a side project and, start to try and do something unique and start to grow it. And then, once it is in a position where you can say, right, I've proved that the customers want this and there is demand for it, then you can start speaking to investors and getting money that way. I think if you
prove the concept, really.
Yeah, and if you've just got a great idea and you haven't proved it, it's a lot more risky for investors, and they might invest, but you're going to get a really bad deal, or they might try and steal your idea. So I think prove it. Once you've proved that consumers want it, that's half of the battle then.
Yeah, definitely. Proof of concept, and then
yeah.
I mean, I think we do all worry that people are going to steal our ideas as entrepreneurs, but ultimately, as you say, most of it is around execution, and most people can't, or they're too slow to execute. So
it's that, and I think a lot of it now is to do with the brand. Of Dyson. So what obviously they've done is pure innovation and patents and technology. And he still gets ripped off by, I think, is it Vax, the Chinese company? And unfortunately, it will happen. But I think it's about, especially with today's society, the strength is in, I wouldn't say forget patents, but, I was given some really good, a good lesson actually when I first started in the pet industry. I was working on sort of like a patented design, and a company in America, I said, look, are you interested in selling this? And they just said, well, we had the patent pending, and they said, well, his brother was like an attorney or something, and he said, I can just rip it off. And he said, you're not going to sue me because we've turned over 100 million. You don't turn over anything. So even if I wanted to challenge someone in court, even if I won, I probably would have wasted hundreds of thousands of pounds. And not got this. So the strength now is the brand. Basically, it's the brand, the community you build around the brand,
which you can do with social media, and if you know what you're doing. All of that. That's great. Just one final question from Rebecca. Would you recommend UK students go to America to study at uni? There seems to be a bigger culture of entrepreneurship there, which might appeal to those who are inspired by your story.
It's quite fascinating because our investors are American, and a number of our strategic partners, and their attitude to founders and CEO is totally different to the UK. Like in the UK, if you're an entrepreneur, it's sort of, I don't know, it's sort of the general impression is until you've made it, people want to pat you on the head and sort of say, yeah, well done, and you're a bit of a dreamer. And I think the stigma comes with it. You're a bit crazy, which is true with me. But I think in the US, they really, support it. And I think it's quite interesting. I think British people are quite a lot more humble than the US. Like the US is very big and broad. And, they've said to me, the US guys, they're like, you're not asking for enough money. You need to be asking for more. Or they're like to sell, like, you can't believe, they sort of asking me to push it more, ramp it up. And it's, they get it. I think their attitude to risk is a lot higher, but I think there's so many success stories. It is the land of entrepreneurs out there. And it is expensive to study in the US, but the general attitude to entrepreneurs is a lot more positive out there than the UK.
And you can get scholarships. I mean, there are sports scholarships and academic scholarships that you can look into, but you really need to thoroughly research it, I would say.
Yeah, and I think, there are some business schools. Obviously, I graduated quite a long time ago now, but some colleges and universities do really support entrepreneurism, like Bath. I think Warwick's pretty good as well. Mm-hmm. So I'd look at those sort of places as well, and sort of, it just gives you a lot more sort of solid foundation when you do leave university.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Just finally, any kind of books you would recommend, or things you read regularly, or apps that you use, any of your tools?
Yeah, so at the moment I have had no time to read any books. So my 2-year-old son loves the Gruffalo, so I read that to him every night. But I think Richard Branson's autobiography is great. It was quite a famous one. They just show, he's quite he is a true maverick who will risk take, and he's done it, and a real inspiration. But I think, like I said, the podcast, How I Built This, are really, really great. And I, even if it's an area, you're not necessarily interested in, you listen to these stories, and there's there's common themes throughout them all,
Mm.
and lessons, and
Mm.
people getting screwed over by
Yeah.
investing, and and that unfortunately is what the world is like. You can't go into it being naive and thinking, like I said, unfortunately I have noticed that out of all my business ventures I've done over the years, because Project Blu is on such a high wave, you just have these people coming out of the grass you haven't spoken to for years, and they all sort of want a bit of the pie and and it's it's nice. You just got to be very, very careful with who you trust.
Definitely, and who you take advice from.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you so much for spending time with us today. That's been fantastic. Thank you so much, Geryn, for coming on the show. What an interesting journey you've had, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your journey moving forward. So the show notes from today will be on our website as normal, which is thecareerfarm.com/pod 112. I hope you enjoyed that interview. It's one of my favourite things, is to interview founders of startup companies, especially in this space around sustainability, which I've been doing it for nearly 6 years, but it seems it's really got some momentum going now, which is really exciting. Anyway, do let us know what you think about the show. Do leave us a review on iTunes, and we look forward to you tuning in next month. Thank you for listening.